can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. The New York Rangers collapsed last night versus the New York Islanders, losing 4-3 in regulation after a 3-1 lead. They blew a 3-1 lead and lost this must-win game to the Islanders. Bottom six depth was a massive problem for the Rangers, and the referees were also a massive problem for the Rangers. An obvious tripping call, no call on Kaapo Kakko that led directly to the Islanders' game-winning goal. We're here to discuss all of that, dive into it, give our analysis and recap. But before we dive deeper into the topic at hand, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing all right. It's never a good day when the Rangers lose, but against the Islanders, it hurts even more. And it's frustrating because it is a game that we should have won up 3-1 heading into the third period, and the team just kind of collapsed, and the refs were kind of really cost us the game.
Yep, totally collapsed at the end. Rangers now sitting with a 6-5-3 record, 15 points, 5 back of the New Jersey Devils with 20 in the Metropolitan Division. I don't know what to really make of this, man, because we saw some good things. I think Panarin's still playing at a really high level. A beautiful pass on the assist to Chytil. Chytil played well, nice goal. And Kreider even scored a goal while playing with the third line, which we predicted. We thought that the third line was very boom or bust, and we could see a really big performance out of Chytil. He had a goal, and his plus-minus was +1. Panarin plus-minus of -2. That continues to be a trend here. Panarin continuously having a negative plus-minus in a lot of these games, despite putting up a lot of points himself, 2 assists on the night. But Eric, what's your main takeaway? Who are you looking at as maybe being the reason we lost, or who are you looking at as having a good performance?
I mean, obviously Panarin had a good performance. Trocheck played great as well. Kakko always looks good when he's on the ice. And, Igor, despite letting in 4 goals, did not play bad whatsoever. Most of the goals that went in were not his fault. Obviously, the last one, the ref really cost us when Kakko got tripped. But overall, when it comes to blame, it's kind of just an overall team collapse. There's not one person you can pin it on. We just need to start learning how to close out games. We come out strong and we look really good throughout the first 2 periods. But then once we reach the end, it's just gone. And I think the bottom 6 is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I think the bottom 6 is also a huge part of that. Let's go ahead and discuss that bottom 6 here. Who stood out the most on that bottom 6 as being a real problem to you, Eric?
Honestly, the entire fourth line, they didn't really contribute much whatsoever, and it kind of just hurt us at the end. We need to see the depth start to play better, and it's just not happening.
So another player who was kind of non-existent, Vitaly Kravtsov. Thoughts on him? I mean, at least he was on the ice for the full game, didn't get injured, thank God, but he also didn't really make much of an impact when he was out there. Granted, he's coming back from injury, working his way back in. Maybe, takes a little bit of time to adjust, but left a lot to be desired out there on the ice, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's good to see him play a full game without getting injured. But, if you want to stay on this team, you need to start being productive. And Kravtsov currently has 0 goals on the season, mainly because he hasn't played that much. But he needs to start producing, He looked really good throughout preseason and training camp. But then once the regular season started, he just kind of decided he didn't want to play hockey anymore.
Yeah, and 0 points from that fourth line. Blais, Carpenter, Gaudreau, they all ended up with 0 points on the night, as Eric was mentioning. That fourth line, pretty costly for the Rangers. The lack of depth on those bottom lines has been astounding and has been really damning for the team. I mean, you look at the first and second line, they all played pretty well. Panarin, Zibanejad, Kakko, I was pleased with the way that they played. Trocheck had a great performance playing on the second line. Lafreniere and VC probably left a little bit to be desired. And then looking at the third line with Chris Kreider and Filip Chytil scoring a goal each, at least we got some performances or some productivity out of that third line, which we said in the pregame live stream, that was the boom or bust here, was that third line. And, Kravtsov ended up being the bust and Chytil and Kreider being the boom. And I'm curious to see, though, going forward, if Gerard Gallant is going to go ahead and make some more changes to these lines and make some more adjustments in the coming games. As you mentioned, it's the dad trip coming up, right?
Yeah, and we're historically great on the dad trip. So called the slump over, we're going to win 2 games in a row.
Hopefully. One can only hope. But I'm curious to know, what do you think about these lines that we put out last night? Do you want to see them change even further, or do you think that they should have a couple more games with these lines.
I mean, I believe as of noon, we did see some new lines that were released. The first line was Kreider, Zibanejad, and VC. So it's interesting to see VC moved up all the way to the first line. And then the second line's looking like Panarin, Trocheck, Kravtsov. So kind of just a reset there back to how we started the season. And then the kid line back together again, which, was one of the best lines that we saw last season. So hopefully that'll continue to produce as well.
Yeah, and maybe bringing back the kid line, maybe that's the key. I don't know. It was a catalyst to success last season. Could be something that we see here with the Rangers trying to change up the lines again. They got to figure something out. I mean, at the end of the day, what they've got going out there is just not working. And they're on a 3-game losing streak right now. They keep going on long losing streaks, winning streaks, losing streaks. That trend just cannot continue. They need to get back to playing winning hockey. And when we had the kid line together last season, that was a lot of winning hockey that we played. So, thoughts on the potential bringing back the kid line?
I like it. Like I just said, they played really well, and they were best line throughout the playoffs last year. It's just frustrating that we have to see them down on the third line. And then you have a guy like VC playing up on the first line, but, you don't want Kravtsov there, and you don't want to have a second line of like putting Panarin on the first line and then have it be VC, Trocheck, Kravtsov. That sounds like a nightmare right there. So that's one of those things you kind of just got to do. But I am very excited to see the kid line make a return.
Yep, as am I. Hopefully they do go ahead in one of these upcoming games and try the kid line out again this season. But I will say last night's game, I want to hit on that because going into the third period with a 3-1 lead is great. But blowing that is just gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
But the more gut-wrenching aspect of that was that blatant missed call on the Kakko trip, right? And without that happening, it's a different game. The Rangers probably bring it into overtime, and then it's anybody's game.
Mm-hmm.
But having that goal scored directly after that blatantly missed penalty call is so gut-wrenching. So, Eric, I just want to know what your thoughts are on that situation in the game, and, how are you feeling about how the refs have given us zero help throughout the season?
I mean, yeah, it's frustrating, but it's one of those things that you can't put all the blame on it for. That's one goal that was caused because of it. But honestly, the Rangers didn't deserve to win that game. We pretty much outscored the Islanders in every possible statistic out there, yet we still allowed 3 goals in the third period. So if you're going to do that, then even if a ref makes a bad call, you don't deserve to win that game. You need to just hold that L and just move on with your life.
Well, we're going to have to go ahead and hold that L, of course, but unideally, I wish that we didn't have to hold that L. And again, taking a look at some of these performances last night, I just want to hit on Panarin again because I thought he put together another really great game. It's a real shame that Panarin's playing so well this season and the Rangers around him just aren't. They're not getting the wins despite the fact that Panarin's still having a phenomenal season. I mean, that pass that led to the assist with Hedl was just phenomenal. And I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are on Artemi Panarin and how the Rangers can start to use his good performances and actually start winning some games.
If I'm being honest, well, obviously I love Panarin, this best forward this season, best player on the team this season thus far, and, one of the best players in the NHL. The thing that I'm a little just confused about is why the lines were changed up again, because I think that first line last night looked really well. And if I'm being honest, besides the fourth line, who didn't play that well, everyone looked really good. The first, second, and third all played really nice. It was just the collapse at the end that kind of just ruined it. So I don't really think there was a need to change up the lines. I think keeping Panarin on the first and keeping those lines would have been fine, Just was one bad game that collapsed at the end. I feel like it might be a poor decision by Gallant to switch it up already this quick.
Yeah, and so now that's kind of like the last thing I want to hit on before we wrap up this episode. Gerard Gallant and, kind of seeing how the team has performed this season, seeing how there's been some really interesting choices made by Gerard. What are your thoughts on him? Are we starting to feel like maybe he should be on a hot seat?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, you look at the way that he ran this team last season. He was a Jack Adams Award finalist. I think he probably should have won. He came into a team full of young kids and turned them into a Stanley Cup contender. And just because we're having a little bit of a slump right now and a little slow start to the season, I don't think it's anything that he or we need to be concerned about just yet. I mean, going into last night's game, the Rangers were third in the Metro, which is a divisional playoff spot. And just, we had a loss, a couple other teams won, and we're back out of it. So I think our division is just so good, and there's not really many bad teams in the Metropolitan, that things are going to continue to fluctuate a lot throughout the season. We can see us go into the first in the division all the way down to like 6th or 7th in the matter of 3 hours. So I don't think it's anything we need to worry about.
Yeah, well, hopefully he's able to turn the team around. If they continue to lose, then I think we're going to have to start to bring up the conversation about his future with the squad and see whether or not we are still confident in him. But back at it again tomorrow night against the Red Wings, 7 p.m. So we'll see how that one goes. Hopefully the Rangers can get back to winning some freaking hockey games because this is getting ridiculous. The losing streak needs to be snapped. But we'll wrap this up with a quote from Gerard Gallant on last night's game. Quote, "I was happy with our game. I thought we played well, worked hard, and competed. At the end of the day, we lost a tough hockey game, tough to swallow," end quote. So yes, tough to swallow indeed. Blowing that lead, not a fun night to be a New York Rangers fan, especially considering it really was, I thought, a must-win game. I think the Rangers just needed to snap that streak right there. Now I'm starting to feel a huge lack of confidence on the team right now, and hopefully, like I said, we could snap this streak on this dad trip and get back to winning.
In the dads we trust.
In the dads we trust. In Panarin we also trust them.
Of course.
That pretty much wraps this one up. Let us know down below, what are your thoughts on last night's game? What are your thoughts on the mixing up of the lines, on Gerard Gallant? Let us know. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. We will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
He shoots. He's